So this morning's webinar is 20 things you don't know about Sage ERP 300 and Sage CRM. Just going to move slides. Basically, we've broken it up so that we can do the Sage ERP because that might be the majority of the audience at the start, and we're probably going to run about 15 tips there, and then we'll proceed with 5 CRM ones, and then we'll go through to some questions. So I haven't put too much on the slide this week just to stop flicking between the two, but I did want to put this disclaimer just up because I can't guarantee that you won't know every one of these things that we're going to show this morning, but I do hope that you do get one tip at least out of the session. And if you could, just provide some feedback either by typing it in or emailing me after if you did get one and which one it was, because it'd be really good to know that this has been valuable and useful. Okay, so I'm going to move a little bit slow. Okay, I'll just have this PowerPoint slide here and just quickly tell you the ones that I'm going to run through, but then I'll just go and stay inside of Sage so that I'm not flicking back between the two applications. So this morning I'm going to have a bit of a talk about some things that I always find that users don't know about passwords and complex passwords. We're going to have a quick look at how to colour the companies, some options in the company profile settings, things to do with startup folders and folders on your desktop and customizing so that you can streamline processes, some finder options that I commonly find that users don't know about and can save them a few clicks of the mouse. Number 6 is modifying the user interface and how to do some quick settings from within the data entry screens. Number 7 is a little bit random in its description, but it's about 3 tips on clicking in different spots in Sage. Number 8, I'm going to have a little chat about bank reconciliations and if you've got any speed issues with those. We'll have a look at restart maintenance because a lot of people also see that screen quite a lot and don't understand what that means. We'll talk about the provisional posting in the GL, have a look at a report in the GL, go through and just have a quick brief look at the visual process flows that have been available since version 6 of ERP now. We'll touch on tax tracking and reminder list schedules, and then I just want to finish up with a few facts about some other modules. So what I'll do right now is just flick straight to where I want to talk about. I'll just get rid of that. Oops. Sorry, my screen's just done something a bit odd. Okay, so what I want to talk about with the first one is user options and complex passwords. So a lot of people don't know that with their Sage, they can also set up that we can have what we call complex, meaning that they're going to need numbers and alpha in them, so that we can turn on a tick inside of here. Now, where I've clicked into here, this is the Sage database setup icon. So as users, you may not have access to that. It does require the admin password to get into there, and it will list the companies that you do have available. So if you're on a database and you click security, you will see additional advanced security user settings. So by turning on any of these, they are fairly specific with what they do, require minimum password lengths, lock out a user after how many attempts. They are very descriptive in terms of what they do. This use time server, though, allows us to, when we have a look in a minute in the other user area, if I just open that up, it allows us to use that in conjunction with making a user be able to use Sage between valid times. And we have got sites that have got international locations that they do restrict their Australian sites to certain hours and then open it up for the international sites to log on. And that allows the LAN packs to control that time a bit more. Okay, while I'm on this user screen as well, a lot of users will be just logging into Sage and entering a password. So a thing that they don't usually know is that you can set up a user so that we have Windows or both authentication. So if it was just set to Sage 300 ERP, when you log into Sage, all you're going to see is this screen and you're entering your password. So a lot of users get a bit frustrated with that. If you have it turned on so that you can have Windows, what it means is that it will use Windows authentication once it's been set up so that when you log into Sage, it will just flow through knowing that you've been logged on to that machine. issues with that is some clients will say, oh, well, that's not very secure, but there's other user locking and screensavers and things like that that should be secure on your PC rather than your access to Sage. But changing the authentication method to both, you can either, when you get to the screen, you'll be able to log in, having it assumed through with Windows authentication, or have a password. So we would usually set it up to both. But it's definitely worth, especially if you're a site that's been using Sage for a long time, those settings probably have never been changed and you always access Sage the same way. Okay. The next tip, whilst I was in that database setup, is what you can see here is that I've got companies with different colours, and that allows for users to be able to have your test database, and it might be red. And what that will do is change this top toolbar along the top so that it's quite a visible identifier that which company that you are in. Now, if you don't have this, it's because you're running probably, I think it's 5.6 or lower. It came in 6. So, and you can assign the colour that you want to your company. So you can assign colours automatically, which is what mine's done. Or when I click edit, I can choose what colour. So just remember, they get a little bit leery. So, okay, so that was user and the company profile. The next thing that I wanted to show you was that a lot of users don't know that under Common Services, under Company Profile, if you go to the Options tab, some of these settings here would more than likely be just the default that when your Sage loaded. If you, quite commonly, if you're used to doing data entry, you might get an error message about warning, date range exceeds setting in company profile, which means you might be entering an older invoice than the current date range that you're in. This is the area that's driving that warning message. So when Sage loads, it loads with only 30 days there. So quite often you might want to expand that out to like 2 months, something like that, because it's quite common to enter an invoice a month after your fiscal period, and that will just get rid of that warning message. The other important ones there are, people often wonder, how does a submodule send through an entry to the general ledger even though the GL account was inactive? And that will depend on what these settings are set here. So whether accounts payable or accounts receivable can create an entry that goes through to the general ledger to a fiscal period that's locked, or an inactive GL account, or even a non-existent GL account, depends on what those 3 settings are set there. And quite often the default is warning, so it'll allow it through the submodule, and then you need to pick it up and deal with it at the GL. So we have got sites that have specifically changed those to be error. They don't want it to even get from accounts payable or accounts receivable. So that's something good to know. Okay, moving on to the next one, I wanted to talk about folders and customizing your desktop. Unless you probably had training in your Sage, this may be something that's not been passed on to you from other users. The first one is that you can easily create, and I've created one here called Demo, and I've just been able to put my icons in there that I like and want to use quickly. So it's a very simple way of, you can click on the top level, right mouse click, go New Folder, and then you can type in anything you like here. Oops, if I can type. And it's created a folder. So it's just going to put them in alphabetically. And then, easily enough, I can go and I can go, right, I want to use the invoice batch list, and I'm going to drag and drop that into, oops, didn't do that very well, sorry, into Stacey's stuff. I could have also right mouse clicked, gone copy, right mouse clicked, paste it into here. And what it's done is moved a copy of this icon to here, so it hasn't deleted it from the original spot. You haven't broken anything. It's just moved it to this location for easier access. I have had some sites that have lined their icons up exactly like their previous system, so whether it was MyOb or whatever, they might have set up a process, and it might have been step 1, prepare invoices, step 2, checks. You can do this as much as you like. The other great thing is you can right mouse click and change the description. So I get quite a lot of users who will do that, especially on an icon called, we have a look here, vendors. So they might put it into their folder. I've just done that the other way, and you might change that to suppliers. So there's absolutely no problem with doing that. Your only issue may be that if you do ring here for support, we're going to direct you back through the normal because we don't know everybody's customized support folders. The other good tip in regards to that is that if you do create one called Startup, and that is Startup without any spaces, any icons that I do put inside of there, if I put one in there, if I close my Sage and just go back in, it will automatically open any of the, oops, I'll just go over those messages. It's already opened, and you missed it because of those error messages, sorry, but it already opened AP vendors without me having to go and click on it. So if there's a certain series of icons that you use commonly, you could have it open them automatically when your system opens in the morning. Probably most commonly, something like vendor activity or customer inquiry might be useful. Whilst I'm there on folders and things like that, if I just go back to this one, sorry, I'll go back to the main one. Another thing users rarely know about is the fact that if they're using vendor activity, if you right mouse click, you can also say, I want to start multiple copies of an icon. So if you go OK, what that means is that I could have two of these screens open, whereas if I hadn't done that, it would have just tried to open the same screen. And you can line the two up next to each other in case you had two vendors that you were trying to inquire against simultaneously. So the icons will only do that if they have had the right mouse click, properties, and start multiple copies. Okay. All right. So that was doing some customization and creating some folders. If you need any more assistance with that, please let us know. The next one, so I'm up to number 5. Sorry if I'm talking too fast. We're just going to try and get through these. Is some global settings and things in the Finder that people often don't know about. So what I'm going to do is just go to vendors, and I'm at my vendors screen, and if I click in my Finder, quite often users will go, and this happens after an upgrade, because remember all your program files quite often get lost. They might say, oh look, my cursor used to flash there, but now it doesn't. That is actually a setting under global settings as to whether to go to the filter first or not. So quite often that gets set to not, and when you then go into this screen, you have to click to there. And I know it's only one extra click, but if you're used to doing your data entry flow, it'll quite often stop you. So you need to make sure that it says go to filter first. Now hopefully you're all very sort of familiar with the Finder screen and being able to use the starts with and contains. But one thing that you might not know is that you might be looking at this going, oh, it would be really awesome if there was a field there that I don't have there. You can actually go to settings and columns, and for instance, I might want the thought there was bank account, but I might have already moved it, but it might be vendor class or something like that. See how it's moved it to the right-hand side of the screen? If I go OK, if I scroll across now, the vendor class would be there. So depending on, and translate this to anywhere inside of Sage. So it may not be on this one that you're missing it, but you might be constantly going, gee, it would have been good if we could have filtered or found by that column of data, but it's just not there. Don't forget that you can go up and add your own columns, or even, you know, on the other way, take some off. If you're always coming to here going, wow, that's cluttered, don't like it, log up, go in there and remove some of them just to make it a bit easier. Okay, so hopefully you found something there. Now, number 6, I just want to touch on modifying the user interface and some quick settings. So for this, I'm going to use the AP invoice screen. Okay, just going to open an invoice. Now, some users don't know that you can actually modify the UI, and when we say that, all we're saying is it's the user interface. So when we say that, it's just this screen. Do I want to hide some fields or do anything? And I don't want to talk to a programmer about doing it. So if I right mouse click here, I can actually go to File and Customize, and it comes up with all the buttons on the screen. Now what I did is I did one earlier, and I called it AP Mod. I'm not sure if you noticed, but I'll just go back into there again. See how there's lots of buttons, in particular here, the PO, the order, the distribution set, and the distribution amount. If I right mouse click here and go Customize, and I've got my AP mod one. See how that's all disappeared? So, I mean, some of it may look still a little bit ugly, but it's not there anymore. A user won't be, what do I enter there? Why do I need it? You can actually quite easily remove, and all I've done by doing that is I took the tick off Remit to Location. If I turn that tick back on, it's going to appear there. Now, logically, you won't be able to take things off that it needs. You couldn't have an AP invoice screen without a vendor number field. So you can't really run into too much trouble. And you can just create as many as you like. And then the next part of that is that you do need to assign them to users. So what the great bit about that is that user test could have a different one than somebody else. So you could have different users, and I'll just close that because it won't go, with different profiles, so they had different screens with just the fields that they needed. So it's a very easy sort of customization that can be done just by yourself. Now, whilst it's not on the user interface, while I was in this screen, I did want to show that you can actually do, because we get quite commonly asked, there is a quick mode setting for both AP invoice and AR invoice screens. And that may mean that if you're doing a lot of work for a vendor in a specific date range, if you turn on these quick mode settings, you can replicate some of the information on the lines to when I create the next one. See how it's replicated my vendor, my date, my GL account there. So a lot of people don't know about that quick mode. So that's also quite useful. Okay. Also, while I'm just on that screen, I'm not sure if you've ever used it, but if you hit the plus key in any amount field, it pops up the calculator. You can do your calculation, and then you can paste. Sam's laughing because we joked that we would show you the calculator one, but hey, I didn't actually know if I hit plus in one of those that it would pop up. Okay. Next one I called the power of clicking, so we're up to number 7, so we're halfway through these. And what I meant with that is that a lot of users don't know that from, say, for example, this screen, if I click on the posting sequence number, I can get to the print posting journals report. They would quite often come out of this screen, go to the posting reports area, and you know, print it from there. And that's not really, I guess it's a good example of that Sage quite often puts undocumented things in there that they don't ever really tell you that's there, so it's definitely worth clicking on some of these fields and seeing what they'll do. I guess that flows through to, and I will open the customer inquiry screen in this instance, just to give it a bit more. Okay, if I just open up one of these. If I was on a document here, some users may not know that if I'm on this invoice, if I double click on it, I'm going to get some information. You can also click so that you're on that little page there, so it throws you through and that you could print an OE invoice and an AR invoice. For those of you that have been waiting, the OE came in 6.1. So if you're not seeing that there, it's because of the that you are on. Whilst I'm on the customer inquiry screen, the other useful thing is that people quite often look at this and go, gee, that's ugly, I don't use half of that, I just want to get to where I want to get to. Also, I always open it up and I'm on the Documents tab. I don't want to have to find which one. So in a lot of screens inside of Sage, if you're constantly having to go and set a setting, you know, that you're not liking, make sure you say Save Settings as default. So that screen will now remember that I was in on the Documents tab and I want to go to that one first. And Save Settings as default is on a lot of the report screens too, the age trial balance and the age payables report. The one that I wanted to show you in here though, when I said it looks a little bit ugly, is if you go to tabs, you can actually go, well, we don't use optional fields, so I want to get rid of that. We don't use skip keys. I never look at adjustments. Don't care about the pending. Don't care about the rest of that. And then it actually changed and makes this a bit more easy and friendly to use. So that was hiding tabs on the customer inquiry screen. Okay. Now, number 8, I said that I would talk about the bank recs and the speed of them. If you've been using Sage for some time, you may be noticing that your bank rec screens are taking a long time to get into. When you click on, let me just get into there, when you open up this reconcile statement, when you click on the calculate button, it takes forever to load, those kind of things. What you've got to imagine is that all this data is collating from these bank recs somewhere, and it's very common for users to never even consider that the way to speed it up would be to clear some history. So whilst I talk about clearing history here, you would never clear history unless you'd backed up your database and probably spoken to us about the implications of it. Okay, so this is not something you're just going to go back to the office and just click on and do. Because once you do clear history, you'll lose the ability to drill down to the transactions. They'll still be in the general ledger, but you will lose some ability to drill back and search through them. So where I am is under Bank Services, Bank Periodic Processing, and Clear History. So now, depending on what's in the system, if you come into it and there's grey ghosted out here, it means there's nothing to clear. It's either been cleared up to it. I'm in sample data and it's obviously been cleared. But you will probably log into yours and you can specify a date that you can clear up to. Now, I'm not suggesting you clear all the time and right up to your most current, but if you've been using Sage for 7 or 8 years, you might at least clear 5 or 6 years of history in the bank rec. And we have seen it definitely speed up those bank reconciliation screens inside of Sage in some of the bigger sites. So it's definitely worth looking into. Okay. I'm not going to dwell on, when I said I'd talk about bank services, I wanted also to just talk about this OFX. I'm not going to deal too much with it because it's not necessarily built for the Australian market, but you may have seen these icons here. And what I did the other day, and you can certainly talk to us and we can see if we can get this going, is I logged on to my local bank and I dropped down a Quicken file, and that's probably fairly common that if you're in your banking software, it'll say, can you export files, and it might be CSV or Quicken. And what I did then is I had it so that I could import. I've just got one. Oops, I've lost my file. What this is doing is importing my bank statement that got downloaded from your banking software. And it was a little bit difficult to sort of set up some sample data for this because I didn't really have, oops, that's a good tip, close your bank rec when you try and do it. What it does is load all the entries up into this screen, and if it can, it will automatically match them. So a lot of clients actually ask about auto-matching bank recs, and there are third-party applications that can do it. This could work without any additional software. So what this has done is loaded up some checks for me. And if I double-click on it, it has actually matched to an entry that was on my bank rec because it's matched on this amount. Okay? So you could clear them. Now, all this does is clear it, like marks it off as presented on your bank rec. But what it does is it's giving you all the transactions and you're just whizzing through them rather than having to search for them on your bank rec screen. So in some instances, some clients could use this and it could be very beneficial. Okay, so it's definitely worth having a chat just about it. Look, it may not fit, it's not designed for Australian banks. OFX is a format for exchanging financial information between the banks, and not all the Australian banks have had the formats done, but there are OFX converters for free on the web page that can assist with this. So, if anything, just write down a note about it and we can send you some more info. Now, the next one, we're up to number 9, so keep going. Sam will start winding me up soon. Is restart maintenance. How often do you log into ACPAC, and if I open it, oops, for close some screens, if you log into ACPAC, you're going to get some messages here about some unlicensed stuff. See this message, earlier processing was not completed, use restart maintenance. Now, I've definitely seen that if a user sees an error message long enough, they just tend to click over it, okay? It's not a bad scary message if you do click over it, but only the admin user can resolve a restart. And what a restart message is that something in the system failed on process. Now, whether it was, in this instance, it might have been me printing checks, and for some reason it stopped, and I could delete that message and that message would go away from users. But normally an admin user should try and get to the bottom and resolve, and importing is usually what creates these errors as well, resolve what process got stopped. I had a client ring the other day and say, I haven't got all my batches through from accounts receivable into my general ledger from my receipt batch list screen. And what had happened is a batch, for some reason, whether it was the multi-user locking on the SQL Server, had stopped posting. And because it had stopped posting, it stopped all the others after it posting, and all the user had to do was go back to the line and hit post again, and then everything started flowing through. So if you do see that message, it's definitely worth notifying your admin user. You will not see this icon under admin services. Only the admin user can do anything about the restart maintenance. Okay. Number 10 is the provisional posting button in the general ledger. A lot of users don't even know it exists because they've never seen it before on the batch list of the general ledger. They don't see this icon, and the reason they see this icon is that under GL setup and options, if it's never been turned on, allow provisional posting, you don't see the icon. And if you don't see the icon, you don't know that it exists. And what it is, and the guys have heard me say this 100 times, it's my after 3 o'clock on a Friday posting button. I always get my debits and credits around the wrong way, but if you are unsure, sorry, I've just lost my toolbar. If you have a journal that you might be doing a large number of adjustments for, and you are would like to know the impact on the trial balance prior to posting it, if you use a provisional posting button, what it does is provisionally post that entry so that you can go to the GL reports trial balance and run a provisional included trial balance, and it will show you the impact of that GL. What it's done though is just left an open batch here that you could continue to go into, resolve it, fix it, change it around if you're a bit like me and get them mixed up, and then submit it through when you're happy with it. So it is actually a good tool. I've seen some clients even use it just to get a what if someone's come in and asked something and they just want to print a trial balance out, and they end up deleting the journal because they don't really need it, but someone wanted a report for something that had that included. So it's definitely worth using. Number 11 on the list is, and sorry we're tearing through them, is that a lot of users don't know that there is one report that they can get standard out of the system that does have budgets on it, and it's because it's probably fairly well hidden. Under GL reports, you can go to chart of accounts, sorry, and there is a fiscal set comparison report here, and it allows you to print your actuals against your budgets. So sometimes, quite often, users are just so used to going, you know, I wouldn't have expected that under the GL chart of accounts report that I could have printed out something that had the values that I might be looking for to see budget sets that were set. So I'll just change this to this. It might not be in a pretty format for you, but it might be that one report that you just want to quickly check something, but quite often users don't know that that one does exist. Okay, was running, but it's just taking a minute, I think. Promise it does run, but it might just be taking a minute, so I'll keep moving. Next one I wanted to talk about is visual process flows, because again, a lot of users don't know that they exist from version 6. 5.6, I can't remember, it does get a little bit confusing, is because again, if a user has not been assigned visual process flows in security, they won't even see this icon down the bottom. Now what visual process flows, and they're a lot more powerful now, is that whilst I showed you how to customize folders and set up startup groups and things like that, this will be the new way that users will start to use the system. If I fire up accounts payable here, what the visual process flow is basically a one-stop shop for anything to do with accounts payable. It's a great training tool. You would now say to a user, this is your screen for accounts payable. Everything that you need is here. Anything else that you need, like another Crystal report that you may run, we can add to this in version 2014 that's been released. We can put macros on there, and we can fire up other applications from there. And all it is doing is a visual representation of the icons. So here I can go, I want to enter vendor invoices, and it's fired up the AP invoice entry screen. So the tip on this one is that ask about them. Ask what version of Sage you're on, ask why I can't see it, and can I start using it? Because it really is probably going to be difficult for users who have been using Sage for a long time to transition to these, but it should definitely be on your list to do because they're so visually easy to use. And it's the most underutilised thing that we're finding with sites at the moment. Okay, number 13, so we're nearly there. Just want to talk about, just touching on very quickly without going through the whole process, the tax services and when you're running your tax tracking reports and this clear tax tracking. So inherently all along Sage has been that you can only run a tax tracking report up to a period of time. So it's very beneficial to clear that tax tracking information so that it doesn't continue to collate for months and months and you end up with huge reports. And also due to the date sensitivity in Sage that you can post back and forward, you want to make sure that once you've reported a BAS, you clear the entries so that no more can get put back and they get sort of lost in the mix. So I guess the thing I wanted to say about this was that you should have a bit of a process going with your clear tax tracking information in that when you clear it, I would always be running them to file first in an Excel format, storing them on your network somewhere, and then do clear history. So I have got a little Word document that I can send out to you with the steps that I do for all of that. But if you aren't clearing your tax tracking, ask about it. And if you are, add the step to it that you do run it to file because it could be beneficial down the long run. Because once they are cleared, you won't be able to run this tax tracking report again. The data's still there and we could write a CRISA report and get to it, but you are actually clearing all the history. Okay, 2 to go. Number 14 is reminder lists and schedules. A lot of users don't know about the reminder list and the schedules. What the schedules are is that there's a few functions inside of Sage that, for instance, general ledger journals, accounts receivable invoices, and accounts payable invoices can be set up to be recurring. So if you have something like a rental invoice or something that's the same amount every year and you want to set it up for a user, you can set up a schedule code, might be month, and you can specify a user for this to remind, or you can tell it to remind every user. You can tell it how many days in advance. You can say that it's monthly and which day of which month for it to occur on. Now by adding that schedule, what that means is that when users log into the system, they'll probably get this come up. And when things are ready to be run, all the user has to do is hit process. Now, that schedule alone probably doesn't make too much sense unless I just show you the recurring payable. So say you've got an accounts payable invoice, you pull up your, give it a new name, this might be, I know I'm in AP and I've called it probably the wrong thing, but this is creating a recurring AP invoice that will generate, but this is where I'm going to attach it to that schedule that I did. So that's how the system knows that on the 15th of the month, it's going to say these invoices are due for generation. I can tell it the next invoice date, I can give it an expiration date, and I can set up details for an invoice that will generate. So if you are a new user or haven't been using it very long and you're logging in and you're seeing this, do have a little bit of a read. There might have been something or a journal that hasn't been run yet, and it's definitely worth. I've seen some sites just have it as a reminder for BAS due or remember to do something. So I mean, we all have Outlook or a different method of doing that, but sometimes logging into your accounting system and having a reminder pop up is worth it. Okay, my last one before I hand over to Sam is just that I wanted to touch on the fact that there are a lot of third-party modules and things around. Recently I've been looking at some for e-image pack and OCR pack and cash flow modules. So I think the big thing is that just because you can't see it on your Sage list, don't assume it doesn't exist. There's probably, I couldn't even tell you how many third-party products there are around. I did want to show you one today that we've actually written ourselves. Because over the years, most commonly clients will say to me, oh gee, in QuickBooks I could search across the whole database and find something. And in Sage, I have to know who it is and where to go. Now what I'm just going to quickly do, I did have it written down but I've lost it. just going to the customer inquiry screen because I want to find a $329.90. Say, for instance, for some reason, I want to find a document or something to do with the fact that it's $329.90. I would have to know which customer that was on to try and locate it. What Jarvis is a search tool that allows me to put in what I want, and it will search and find all references to that in Sage. So if I had more documents with it, it would have listed them. I can modify the modules it does look through. We've got this great little sort of options here for setting up what it's searching for. But by clicking on this now, it'll take me straight to that document, and I could either reprint that AR invoice or OE invoice. So where I see this being really awesome is the customers rang up. They've started talking to you either about an invoice number or an amount. You can just punch this in and hit find, and it's going to find that document for you instantly. Now, it's not restricted to amounts. You might be searching for a vendor, an invoice number, or a payment. So it's actually a really powerful tool. So if you're interested in having a look at a demo copy of it, please let us know. But I can see heaps of applications for this. So just wanted to make sure that you saw it. The last thing I want to say is that 2014 Sage ERP was released last Monday. So depending on what version you're on, we could start looking at rolling out your upgrades. So I'll leave it there and hand over to Sam.
Hi everybody, hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm just going to get Stacey to give me control. Right, so I'm now the presenter and hopefully you can see my screen. So thanks very much, Stacey, for going through all those wonderful ERP tips. That's great. I've got the much simpler task of just 5 CRM tips to show you. So again, we've sort of got a lesser amount of CRM tips. We've probably got a great number of people that are ERP related rather than CRM, but remembering that everyone who does use ERP can have a version of CRM for free. So this is a good way to have a look at the system if you haven't had a chance to do so. So I'm going to just jump into my virtual machine here. Actually, what I'll do before I do that is I'll quickly just go through, I guess, the things that we'll have a look at. So we'll look at creating relationships in CRM and how we can use that for our benefits and building relationships between different entities in CRM. We'll look at the quick notifications, how we can set those up. We'll look at some field level security and what you can do with that. We'll look at creating some system shortcuts via the dashboard. So a dashboard can do 101 things. This is just one simple thing that we can do. And also for the ERP people that are still hanging around for this last bit of CRM goodies, I'll show you how we can bring some of the ERP data into CRM, and that can be from Sage ERP, from X3, or any of the ERP products into the CRM, and then we can use those to create a group and do email marketing, marketing activities, any type of CRM activity using that data. So if I flick over to my virtual machine running CRM, and hopefully everybody can see that. The first one being relationships. So I'm just going to use my recent menu here, and I'm going to go across to a company record. There is a tab available for everybody using CRM called Relationships. And when you first visit it, it is blank like this. What this enables you to do is basically build a organizational chart, if you like, of how this particular company relates to other records within your system. So it could be a parent, a sibling, or a child relationship. You can set these up. You can change how they behave, whether you want to call them owner, whether you want to call them director, something like that, you can do so. I can then go ahead and pick my relationship type. So here I can have something that says owned by, and I can pick another company. So I can pick perhaps another bargain mart, and I'll pick the parent store, which we can see we've got a Bargain Mart is owned by the Bargain Mart Stores Inc. And obviously you can build this up to be more and more complex as you need be. So I can even have a look here and go, okay, well I want to create a list of directors which is linked to person records. So I can say Carl Jennett is a director of this particular Bargain Mart in Oakland. And so on and so forth. So lots of people sort of want to know how certain things relate. If you've got relationships in your organisation, you want to be able to show that in represented in a graphical way, you can go ahead and do that using the Relationships tab under your CRM company or person entity. Quick notifications. Perhaps we want to be able to set up some sort of automated notification that allows some sort of alert or message to happen when something is done inside the system. If we go under the administration menu, we're going to choose customization. We're going to choose the entity in which we want to set a notification on. So this is just really basic customization. I'm going to choose cases in this example. It could be company, it could be person. I'm going to go across the top to notification tab. So from here, I can create a notification rule. It can be an on-screen reminder or an email reminder. So I can send an email message or I can show people on screen a notification. So I'm going to call this case alert. Make sure it's enabled, and I can build up a list of conditions here based on the fields in my cases entity. So I can go here. Cases priority is equal to high. What that basically is going to do is if your condition evaluates to true, a notification will occur. So I can even then build up a nice message. I can say, okay, the case reference ID is a high priority case. Which user do I want to notify? I can notify, all users, or perhaps a specific user related to the case. In this instance, I'm just going to link it to myself because I'm the system administrator and we just want to have a go from there. So if I save my notification rule, I can see I can add this here. It's enabled. It's an on-screen reminder. If everything is working as expected, I should be able to create a new case. Sam's CRM problem number 2, and I will need to set this to be a priority of high. Case details go in here. Okay, and filling out the details accordingly. If I save this, the notification process is run, and eventually what we should see, and it may just take a moment to kick in, is a on-screen notification to say that that has been created. So what we'll do is we'll let that run through, and then hopefully we'll see that pop up when as we keep using the system. You can use notifications on a lot of things, different areas of the system. It can be also using on groups and any sort of integrated information that you have. Third one I've got for you this morning relates to field level security. I'm just going to flick back here. Actually, no, that's okay. We'll come back. Field level security is driven under customization, choosing the entity. So, for instance, if I want to have a look at different levels of security, I can do that under the user security. I can give users access to an entity, whether they have view, edit, insert, delete priorities, those types of things. What this enables us to do is if we really want to be very specific about a certain field on the particular screen, for instance, in this one, the employees field on the company screen, I can come over here to field level security, and I can actually add very specific security relating to that exact field. So I can say, okay, only specific users, in this instance, the system administrator, is allowed to write to that field, and everyone else can only read the field. So this is security that's above and beyond any normal security that you have in place, but this can be great if you've got certain fields of sensitive information. You could even completely hide the field by denying read access to everybody else, meaning the system administrator is the only person who can read and write to the field. So that's a really powerful way to be able to get some very flexible field level security in the system. Obviously, if you want to remove the specific field level security, you can click remove, and that's gone from the system there. This can be applied to any and every single field that's in the CRM system. So you've got at the top here, my notification did work, and we can see that hopefully at the top there it's popped up saying case number 3 is a high priority case, and I can actually click on details here and bring that up. I can actually also snooze the message, much like you can do with an Outlook message, or I can dismiss it entirely. So that's demonstrating that quick way to add notifications in the system and be able to get some alerts in there to let people know what's happening in the system. So there's the fourth one I've got on my list here, relates to dashboards. Dashboards are found and driven by main menu under My CRM. I've got my web dashboard that's come up on the system here. What I'm going to do now is just go down to my blank Sam's dashboard that I created. There is many different gadgets that you can create. One useful gadget that I create often for new users is a main menu shortcut gadget. So I can click New Gadget, Create Gadget, choose one of the gadget types. One of these types is main menu item. If I choose that, I can then construct a list of different actions to show on my particular gadget. So I can say I want a CRM action and I want it to be Find Company. And I can choose Find Company. So usually to find a company you would do it 2 clicks, so that reduces it down to 1 click. I can go New Person and so on and so forth, adding every single menu, main menu command driven here on single buttons in the system. I add my gadget in the system here, and then I can see that I've got my main menu items linked on here. So usually if I wanted to create a new person, I might have to go right-click New, then click New Person. So otherwise I can just click here, New Person. Okay, so it's just a way to reduce the clicks in the system, and that's all about making things a little bit faster for everybody here. On that, if you haven't ever created your own dashboard, I do encourage you to do that. You can simply create a new dashboard. It's isolated to you, so it's not going to affect any other users, and then just have a look and explore all the different gadget options in there. It's a wizard-driven interface, so it's very easy to create your own gadgets and widgets that make your CRM experience just that little bit better. Okay, so the last one I wanted to show is ERP data groups in CRM. If you are an ERP user, you can extend the CRM system to connect to any ERP, Sage ERP system that you're using. You do this via a view. So this is probably a little bit more advanced, but we can assist you in creating these views. I created a simple view here which is called ACPAC Invoice History. So this will go away and look at Sage ERP invoice history data and return that information in a view that I can then use inside my CRM system. If I use this view in creating a group, so if I click My CRM, Groups, New Group, call this Item Sales History. It's under my company entity, that's where my view lives. I can see that my view here is selected. I can select all the different views, but I can choose this one here. Can go ahead and pick the various fields in there. Now, I've got my normal company fields, but I've also got here fields that relate to my ERP system, for instance, item category. So I can now add that to my search criteria and also to the contents. So these are the fields that you'll see in the group. These are my criteria for searching. Hit continue. I can say, show me all customers that have purchased products in the A1 category. And it goes away and grabs all the CRM records, because these are linked to my ERP database. I have purchased items in the A1 item category. So this could be I could put that as a date range. Show me customers that have purchased items or products in a certain category for a specific date range, the last 6 months and so forth. And these can be done in that way. Save my group, send emails to my group, export this data, so on and so forth, start a mail merge. Okay guys, so that's probably wrapping up most of my CRM stuff. I've probably lost a few of the people attending due to CRM content, so thanks everybody else who has stuck it out to the very end. If you are interested in any CRM stuff, or you see anything in here that is of value to you, even if you're not a CRM user, then make sure you get in contact with myself or someone in our office, because everybody that is using a Sage product has access to this CRM software.